I'm going to do the echo. Okay, I'm turning the echo up. Welcome to In ShawScope. Hello, I'm Darren. That's Clive.
Hello.
Say hello, Clive.
Hello, Darren.
Hello, and Nick over there.
Hey.
Hello. So, what's In ShawScope? In ShawScope is a monthly podcast where we discuss more or less chronologically as much of the Shaw Brothers catalogue, or as many snapshots of the Shaw Brothers catalogue as we can possibly manage. And we're up to 1962 today. So what has 1962 got in store for us? Madam Whitesnake, that's what we've got. 2 versions.
Yes. Except one of them is from 1956.
6, yeah. Well, yeah, but you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? You know. So yes, so it's 1962's Madam Whitesnake, and then so we're going to start with the 56, or should we start with 62?
Do 56 first, yeah.
56 first, yeah.
Somehow it got overlooked when we were back in the 50s. And then when
because it is a Shaw, it's a Shaw co-production.
Yeah, Shaw and Sons, isn't it?
So by the time we got by the time Madam Whitesnake popped up, we were reminded, oh, hang on, we forgot to do that one. So we're cleaning up, mopping up the leftovers.
But it's good though, because it's a nice theme to run with.
Yes,
and it's nice to watch these back to back because they're the same story.
Yes, and if any of you just can't get enough of us talking about Madam Whitesnake, soon there'll be an additional episode of Not in ShawScope, and we'll be talking 3 more versions.
Not 4.
No, but there'll be another Not in ShawScope after that. Well, we'll be talking another 4 versions. So we'll be sick of this fucking story. Soon enough.
Well, some of us are sick of it already, having watched 6 versions of this fucking story by accident this week. But that's my fault.
It is probably worth mentioning that. Well, first of all, that these are like the first extant versions, right? But there are multiple earlier lost versions, also made by Shaw, right, going right back to the 20s or the 30s.
In the 20s and 30s, yeah.
Yeah, silent versions.
And then obviously it's based on a much older legend. Which, did anybody bother to try to find a version to read? I feel like I have the general shape from watching 5 different film versions, but
I used Wikipedia.
Me too.
That was my research.
I couldn't find definitive a translation of the most well-known version of the myth into English. I'm sure it's probably about in some anthology, but I couldn't pinpoint it. But it seems to be one of those slightly shape-shifting narratives, right? Because each one of these versions, for example, is a little bit different, isn't it? Confusing when you've watched 5 or 6 of them in a row, because you're not quite sure which variant is in which one, right?
Yeah.
No, it's quite interesting.
I'm pretty sure I know the one with the panda and the fox. But other than that...
Yes. And the monobrow pig.
Yes. Yeah, no, but it is quite interesting picking out the variations in them, actually, in between the 2 podcasts.
Yeah. I guess I remember which
over the first 2 films. There's that's the problem.
Yeah,
but I think we more or less get there on this one, but not is going to be a little bit more difficult, I think.
Right. But anyway, baby steps. We'll deal with what's in front of us. So, kick us off, Darren, with we're going way back to 1956 and
56.
The Legend of the White Serpent, right?
Yes, when I find it in my notes, bear with me, Paula. There we are. Yes, so directed. Why do I have to pronounce the Japanese names to people who used to live in Japan?
Because we can laugh at you.
And exactly. Yeah, director Toyoda Shiro. No.
No, actually, that was perfectly fine.
That was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be what it is what it's gonna be.
But no, I think Japanese is all right, because the thing with Japanese is it's pretty there's no like hidden silent letters or anything like that. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's when you learn something by ear rather than understand it.
Like phonetic or
Yes, yeah, there we go. It's a very phonetic language, so it's kind of difficult to go wrong as long as you just say what's in front of you.
Yeah, fair dues. Yeah, so Li Xiang Tan as Whitesnake or Bay. We've got Yachigusa Kuoru as Xiao, Green Snake. We've got Ikebe Ryu as Husien.
Ryo,
Ryo, is it? Oh, sorry, I wrote that down wrong. Yeah. Uedu Kichiro as the loan shark, Wang Min. We've got Tono Eijiro as the Taoist Marshan. We've got Tokugawa Musei as Priest Farhai. And that's about enough, I think, to go through. Unless you've picked out any stars lingering around that we should know about.
No, I suppose the most I suppose the thing that's worth mentioning about this one is that it's a co-production with Toho, right?
Yeah.
And the first tokusatsu, for people who don't know, tokusatsu basically special effects that encapsulates all your Godzilla and Ultraman and anything like that comes under the tokusatsu umbrella. But it's the first color tokusatsu film, right? Japanese film. And yeah, it's a short co-production, but you wouldn't know it really. I mean, it's from the cast and the crew almost 100% Japanese. I think it was mostly shot in Japan as well. I expected it might have been like more shot on the shore a lot, but I don't think.
No, it doesn't look shore.
No, although it does have that sumptuous kind of controlled interior environment. I mean, it looks. It'd be nice to see a HD version, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, so it's all our leads as well. Ikebe Ryo as the well, so we should probably use this version then, our first one we're going to talk about, Darren, to explain what the story is.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
So you go ahead, and you.
So yeah. So a rough breakdown of plot. It is kind of an unusual kind of pre-credit scene with this one, isn't there? Where there's kind of a fisherman. I think he's a fisherman, and he catches the white snake. Catches a white snake in his net, and then is very kind to the snake and lets the snake go.
Oh, hang on.
And you kind of
hang on now.
Is that the Shaw one, maybe?
Yeah,
like the other Shaw one?
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah.
We're already in trouble.
Whoops, daisy.
I'm glad you brought it up though, because I mean we'll get into this. So we'll get into the nature of this is a romantic story and all that, but it's quite interesting because so in the 62 version, like you said, there's that. Actually, I'll get to that when we get because I'm doing it ass backwards. Carry on.
Yeah, let's get through the plot. Yeah. So anyway, so we'll start again. There's not the fisherman and the white snake. That's the next film. Yeah. So yeah, and this is the kind of textbook. So this kind of opening is kind of the textbook.
What do you think, Nick? He's about to say there's a panda and a fox.
Yeah. So there's two fine-looking ladies, richly dressed ladies who are White Snake and Green Snake in disguise, who are 1,000-year-old snake spirits, with magical powers.
This is
but at this point,
Shirley Yamaguchi, right? And
is it worth bringing up that she was a war criminal?
What?
Have you read her? It's a fascinating reading. I strongly recommend you read her.
She did later go into politics. It's true,
but but she was very nearly executed at the end of World War II.
Yeah, she grew up in Manchu, right? She was
by the Kuomintang, basically. Yeah. And it was only because she was proved, funnily enough, to be Japanese and not Chinese. She had been acting in China, basically under Japanese rule, pretending to be Chinese. And basically had made some films that had really annoyed Chinese nationalists. And then, so as the war ended, everyone thought she was a traitor to the Chinese people and they wanted her killed. And it was her proving her Japaneseness that were like, all right, then just get her out of the country back to where she belongs. And yeah, anyway, she spent a lot of the rest of her life kind of, I guess, apologizing for it and actually speaking openly about some of the atrocities that took place in Manchuria.
She's a member of the LDP.
Wow.
Member of the LDP, right?
Yeah, so she was a member of parliament, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Later on, yeah.
Also in Sam Fuller's House of Bamboo as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
I completely missed that about her. Yeah.
But yeah,
so that's our Madam Whitesnake.
Yeah, she's the White Snake, and then her lady in waiting, I guess, is Kaoru Yachigusa. She's the so it turns out they're both snakes. White Snake.
Yeah, they're both snakes.
Yeah.
And they're coming down to have some fun in the mortal world, sort of thing.
Snakes just want to have fun.
Exactly.
Cyndi Lauper couldn't have said it better.
Right.
No.
You mean
so
Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi
See what I did there?
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of shit you get on this podcast and nowhere else. Thank God.
Yes. Right. So anyway, they kind of bump into each other on this nice little bridge, and then it turns out they're both catching the same ferry. And they get on the ferry, and there's all sorts of sort of comedy of manners shit about them, him. He's out on the deck of the boat, and they're in the nice dry interior, and it's raining, and then they invite him in, and then all of a sudden, Madam Whitesnake starts fancying him. And he gets out. They get out off the boat. There's some business about who's going to pay the fare, and then he lends the two ladies his umbrella. And Xiao is
it's a very effective pickup technique. Could we see it repeated over and over again? It seems to really work. You want to give a lady an umbrella so you have an excuse to then go see her. But I really like the part actually where her red scarf falls in the boat, and then he kind of tips his hand a little bit. He picks it up and starts huffing it right in front of them, like taking big. I was like, this could have been called Confessions of a Lady's Scarf Huffer, because he does it several more times as the movie goes on.
The thing with this as well is Ikebe Ryo is slightly too long in the tooth for this part, and not exactly, Mr. Charisma. So it's a slightly odd choice for this role. You don't quite understand why Whitesnake Yamaguchi has fallen quite so hard. The only thing I can think of is maybe they've just arrived on Earth, and
that's what it seems like to me.
The first male they've come across,
and she just imprints on him immediately, because it feels that way in some of the other versions where there's not.
So she hasn't come across backstory. She hasn't come across like Channing Tatum or anything yet.
Exactly.
She's only got Ikebe Ryo to go from.
Yeah, he'll do. He's immortal.
Right.
I assume all his parts are in working order.
It's the same logic that why you should hang out outside like prison gates and things like that. So you're the first person someone sees when they get out.
Yeah. Anyway, so they arranged to have him come to their palatial home to return the umbrella. And Xiao is a poor man who lives with he's like an orphan. He lives with his sister, who's, I think in this one, a pharmacist, if not an innkeeper.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
in this one,
So he's poor, he's kind of low status, they're high status, and he returns the umbrella to this kind of palatial home. It's not really a palatial home, because it's like a ruin that they magicked into a palatial home.
Yes, we're into kind of Chinese ghost story territory in some of this. I kind of felt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's definitely part that's in the back of it, right?
Yeah, so there's, and then again, you get this whole comedy of manners. Well, it's not comedy of manners, but it's all about manners, you know, and he's kind of very reluctant to become close to Madam Whitesnake, but she's really got the hots for him, and it's all about status. You know, there's lots of conversations when they're, bless you, when they're in the in their home, where it's kind of, well, I do fancy her, but you know, I'm poor and you're rich, and I haven't got a dowry, I can't pay for the wedding and all that stuff. And magically, I think it's Greensnake produces like 500 taels of silver, and says, there you go and pay for the wedding with that. And you know, there's all sorts of reluctance and all that.
Turns out
around using it.
Fell off the back of a lorry. That
well, it did fall off the back of a lorry. It fell out the back of the treasury, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yes. I would like to mention that there's some great sexy stuff with flowers in that garden scene. There's a whole part where, and I see that it comes up a lot actually, like these kind of like wet flowers show up in a lot of these versions of the story, right? Like whether they're lotus ponds or, and this one there's even a little pearl in amongst the flowers. Like it's all very highly charged stuff.
There's a pearl among the petals, isn't there? Yeah. Yeah, and there's like, yeah, so and there's like this kind of fairly brief courtship around that. And yeah, quite right, because the pearl comes up later on, and she kind of produces this pearl. I think it's out of a flower, isn't it? It's yeah, it's out of a peony, isn't it? It's out of a flower, and then it gets dropped in the pond with a carp.
It doesn't go full on.
Retrieves the pearl.
Ikeberio doesn't give her a pearl necklace at any point.
No. That's for there's alternate versions out there with that.
Sure there are. In the future, not ShawScope.
Yeah. Probably if I had, there's probably something from the early 80s. If we're lucky enough to find it. So yes, anyway, so he takes the silver, he goes home. Coincidentally, that exact amount of silver has been stolen from the treasury, except there's no signs of a break-in. It's kind of magically disappeared.
But unfortunately, it's marked money, it turns out, right?
Yeah, so it's got a stamp on it. So it's got like a treasury stamp on it. And
I'm surprised he didn't notice that, to be honest, when she handed it over, because it's quite big.
He does seem a bit dim in a number of the versions of this, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. So anyway, so his family grass him up.
Yeah, they're really shitty in this version. Like, this is the worst sister/brother-in-law version we see in any of them, where they immediately just turn him into the authorities.
Yeah. So they just turn him in. He gets beatings. He gets the shit kicked out of him. I can't quite remember. I'm just trying to struggle in a little bit.
They also do a bit of fat shaming here as well in this version, right? Because the mean sister is also fat in this version, right? So
yes.
Up a little bit.
I think that the police then march him over to where he says the house is. They make him kind of say where the house is, and they march him over there. And this is when it turns out that it is this abandoned, broken down place, and he realizes, and we get ghostly theremin music and some weird mist.
Yeah.
And then I think that's when he gets exiled, right?
Yeah, so he gets exiled to this different town. Yeah, but he's in prison first.
So far, almost all the versions we're going to talk about follow this narrative pretty closely, right?
Yeah.
Well, the silver's a variable.
We're not going to see the money in the very next one we do.
Yeah.
And he doesn't go work for an inn. Is this the only version where he gets an interim job working as an inn manager? Right, with
where the guy who owns the place is trying to teach him like how to get laid.
Yes. Yeah.
That's quite good. Yeah, but I think his, if I've got this version right, and we're going to get a lot of this, I think, but I think the he's gone to work for another one of his relatives, hasn't he? Who's basically
I think so.
Paid them off, paid the authorities off so that he doesn't have to do jail time. So he's basically on parole and has to get has this job at the inn. And then it all gets a bit melodrama from this point on, doesn't it? Because she kind of turns up and he's really kind of furious with her. Because he feels that she's kind of abandoned him because she didn't do anything to get him out of prison. And
gave him a bunch of fake or whatever stolen gold or silver.
Yeah. And we've got some scarf business, and the scarf falls on the floor, so then he gets the scarf.
Yeah, more
again.
scarf huffing.
Yeah. And then it just goes full kind of histrionics from this point on, where she's like.
This is where the gaslighting in this version gets like really ramps up, and it kind of features in several of the versions to different degrees. This is the most full on, I think, where she's just like playing with his emotions constantly, right? Like she's immediately goes, so well, just kill me then, strangle me.
Yeah.
And he's like she's a crazy person. And he just gets snared in her too much love, So
anyway, so then eventually they kind of make up, don't they? And then they end up running this business, which I couldn't quite work out at the beginning whether it was a pharmacy or an inn. I thought it was an inn to begin with.
It seems like both by the time they're done with it.
Yeah. But anyway, they can't make any money out of this business. And there's like this festival in town, and there's still no one goes to the inn to stay at the festival, and they're just really down on their luck. So Whitesnake decides, I know what I'll do. I'm going to poison all the rivers and the wells, and we're going to sell the antidote as medicine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whitesnake is this is definitely the most problematic screen interpretation of Whitesnake, isn't it? It's the one where she's like you said, she's a crazy person, or just totally she behaves like what she is, an alien who doesn't quite know how things work on Earth.
Totally amoral in everything other than maybe in this intense love, which she does seem to genuinely feel for this hapless guy. But yes, nothing must get in the way of that love. Right down to, she'll do whatever she has to.
Yeah. Although conversely, you also get on side with Whitesnake because she has the debt collector keeps coming around because they're deeply in debt because they can't, they haven't got any business, and he kind of keeps sleazing on her, and he's like in cahoots with his wife to kind of make her his concubine. And he's basically a sleaze. So you're kind of getting back on side with Whitesnake.
He goes full Bill Cosby in one of the later film versions we're going to talk about. But yes, he is a scumbag for sure.
By the way, two things. One thing we forgot to mention earlier. We did mention that it's almost totally Japanese cast and crew and all that. We did forget to mention it is actually in Japanese as well. It plays out in language as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that just struck me. Why was there no Confessions of a Whitesnake with Robin Asquith and Heather Dealey and Mary Lincoln or something like that?
I mean, can you imagine the snake puns? I mean, the snake puns would be like
speeded up, sexy snakes. Yeah, that's brilliant. It would have been. I can just imagine Robin Asquith doing his on the boat stuff. Yes. I shall be returning this umbrella.
Easy.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. Well, one day, you never know.
We could have had Tommy Cooper guest starring as the meddlesome monk as well.
Oh yes,
a Taoist shit musician. That'd be brilliant.
And that's the next thing, isn't it? So that's the next thing. So the kind of highlights, the kind of marker posts of this myth. The next marker post of the myth and in the film is the Taoist.
Right.
So you've got the Taoist priest kind of in the square, and that's quite a nice scene actually, because he's kind of doing all this magic. It's like he traps wind in your palm, doesn't he? So he's like, this is this one, isn't it? It is. Yes, I think. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Is it?
Why not?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Or is it the next?
He does mention he obviously in all versions he sees something's wrong with our leading man's aura, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so anyway, and he gives our hero the 3 charms, and this is consistent in all the stories as well.
Yeah.
So he gives the 3 charms. Says you're gonna die because you're married to a white snake, and that's an evil spirit. So I'm gonna help you, and you're gonna get 3 charms, and you have to put 1 on the door. You have to put 1 in your hair, I think. And then you have to burn 1 in front of the white snake. And he does all this, but she kind of resists it. So, she's like super, super powerful. And despite the fact that he does all this kind of Taoist stuff that's meant to reveal her true nature, she like survives it. She like just like, it doesn't affect her. She resists the magic. And then that kind of converts him to being on her side.
This is in this version, this is Makoto Hobori, right? As the
Taoist guy.
Yeah.
No, I've got him down as Tono Eijiro.
Is that right? Oh, maybe I'm confusing. Because there's the first Taoist,
right, and then there's the Buddhist,
and then there's the priest
later.
Yeah. So maybe Makoto Hobori is the priest, the later, the big bad.
No, I've got Tokugawa Musei down as priest.
Yeah, I got that as well. Oh, for fuck's sake, they're all in it anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so she resists that, alleviates all his doubts, so that he's back in love with her, and and there's a little bit of histrionics about, oh, you didn't believe me, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
all that
the
business.
gaslighting is strong.
Yeah. So then he gets, and then obviously by this point they poisoned all the wells, and they're doing really, 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 really well. And then you've got the monk comes to town. So the what's he called? Priest Farhai comes to town. And I'm trying to remember which version this is.
Well, this is one of the ones where she blasts him on top of the pagoda. That happens in at least 2
that's right.
different...
No, that's so that's it. So
but this is the first time we see this.
Yeah, so there's like a little bit of skirmish. There's like a little magical battle, isn't there, between the priest and the...
It's depending on which version. It's sometimes a little bit more playful, and then sometimes a little bit more antagonistic, isn't it? It's this one. It's relatively playful, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so she encounters not the priest, not the Buddhist priest, but she encounters the Taoist again and has a little magical battle with him. And there's it's like some good special effects in this. It's like she like she sets the stairs on fire and stuff, and throws him up so he gets his ass caught in a pagoda and all that business. But there's basically like this. So his next encounter with our hero, Xiao, is right. Okay, well, you're gonna know what's what by the Dragon Festival, because she's gonna need to drink the wine, and this real gar wine.
Yep.
Gar?
Or real gar. Yeah, I'd never heard of this before, but I certainly started to read about it and was fascinated.
Yeah.
By what I read.
Yeah.
Because it's full of arsenic and it's a real thing.
Yeah, but it's basically like a banishing evil spirits wine.
It has to be said that in this version, this scene plays out the best for me, the most convincingly, because they have that other ecchi innkeeper character guy basically wants to get in his pants. So and he's driving it, right? he's the
Yeah.
one. Like, go on, have some more.
Yeah, yeah.
Drink.
Go on.
Yes, yes.
And that makes the whole scene make a lot more sense. Whereas in some of the other versions, you're like, what? Why are you drinking that? Like it doesn't work, right? Because oh, I can't drink wine, and then for no reason at all, the main characters,
Our hero is pouring it down every
insistent,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And you don't really understand why, because it's not the same
I
as
agree.
the talisman thing. But in this version, because you've got this sketchy dude, that makes more sense, right?
And he plays the same role in the Korean version as well, basically. But this stuff is so anyway, it is real, right? And it is people did used to drink it quite a bit. And if children who couldn't drink wine, they had it made into a paste and rubbed on their heads. But it's full of arsenic, and apparently it's poisonous, and arsenic just builds up in the body, right? So drinking it every year at this festival is probably a really bad idea, regardless of whether it keeps away bad spirits or
you and your
insects.
modern snowflake ideas, Nick.
Anyway, interesting.
But because it's this festival and because it's this tradition, it's very hard not to drink the wine in that situation.
Right.
So she drinks the wine, and then she kind of writhes around in agony. She retires to bed, and then she's oh, don't come in, I'm ill, and then he comes in, and then all of a sudden she turns into a white snake. And then he drops down dead.
Snake gets it spilt on her in the fracas as well.
Yeah, and she goes outside and then snakes out.
Interesting. I would have always said fracas, but
it could be fracas.
No, it's fracas, I believe.
It's French though, so I wondered if it was. Yeah.
No, I'm not having to go. It makes sense, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone say it out loud before.
I think I've never said it out loud before just now.
That's well done. Good job. You're
I think if you're in the US and you're like from the deep south, they say fracas. There's a bit of a fracas.
Really?
But I think the correct way to say it is fracas.
We are learning so much today.
It's like the foyer versus foyer, which is another.
Who says foyer?
They do in America. They absolutely do in America.
Yeah.
Although
we do welcome our American brethren to our podcast. Let's not
come into our foyer, take a seat.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to call it a foyer, call it a foyer. You're wrong.
Yeah.
But we welcome you nonetheless.
Yes. Yes. We will condescendingly we'll put up with your mangling of the English language.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Anyway, poor old white snake. She's turned into a white snake.
So she's turned into a white snake, and he just drops down dead.
Yes. I like this consistent thing that happens in most versions where he's apparently got some sort of heart murmur or something going on, because he just immediately just hits the floor, stone dead.
Dead, yeah. And then
actually, forget Robin Asquith. In this version of it, this Ikemerio, Charles Hawtrey.
No, who's the other one? Who's the one that had like the tick in the Carry On films? Who you always used to go, Wheel! That one.
What?
That big tall one.
Oh, Bernard Bresslaw.
No, there's another one. There's another one, and he wasn't in all of them, but he'd like the scene that comes to mind. He's got like a pint of beer in a pub somewhere, and like he's like got some sort of tick, some sort of neurological thing, and he keeps like ticking like that, like that, and he spills his beer all the time, and then he goes to drink his beer.
I don't remember this fellow in a Carry On film. Do you, Nick?
Well, we're gonna have to put it in the show notes, Clive, because he does exist.
Okay.
And we need to. We'll go back to that.
So you're saying he would have been a good.
He would have been a good
alternative British sex comedy version of Madam Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so...
Whitesnake.
Yeah. Well, Sid James's debt collector is an obvious thing, isn't it?
Oh, he could have been the Taoist monk as well, couldn't he?
Oh. No. Charles Hawtrey. Charles Hawtrey is the Taoist. Kenneth Williams is the priest Farhan.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Anyway, we digress. So
we do.
Anyway, so I think as soon as we've got this density of this plot out the way for this one, it's going to be a lot easier to
It'll
talk
be a
about the
brief.
next one.
Yeah, the rest of
But
the
we
show
need to get it out the way.
enjoyable.
Exactly. Yes. So anyway, so he's collapsed, and then all of a sudden, Whitesnake decides, shit, he's dead. I don't want him to be dead. I better go to heaven or this magic mountain where the gods live.
Right.
And get the magic herb to bring him back to life. So off she goes on a cloud, just like monkey magic.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly like monkey magic, flying on a cloud.
Yeah.
Which gave me so much bloody pleasure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Someone riding a cloud like a motorized skateboard is
exactly
is what dreams are made of.
Like a Segway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So asking you two the question, because you're a lot more well versed on Japanese cinema than I am. Is this something that's a through line in terms of Japanese fantasy films, that people fly on clouds like monkey magic, or is this an anomaly?
I don't know if it's specific to Japan, but it is. It's in the source, right? It's in Journey to the West or whatever that he rides out on a little cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've seen people riding clouds in versions of Monkey, and then I guess that transfers into any other fantasy.
Yeah.
So I think it's just it got into the iconography that way, right?
Yeah. So slightly less interestingly than the next film, she goes to heaven or this magic mountain and comes across this kind of giant kind of god king kind of dude.
The heavenly king.
Just like a bald. Yeah, so he's like a heavenly king. He's just like asleep on a tree. And she kind of parleys and bargains.
Sorry, Darren. Just was there a video game called Turbo Powered something? I think it was called something else somewhere else. And it wasn't that like a platformer thing where people flew about on clouds? Was that ringing a bell?
Yes.
What was that then? That was a very...
It wasn't Bomb Jack, was it?
No, although Bomb Jack's platforms sometimes were clouds, weren't they?
Yeah.
No, this was like a side.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I do know what you're talking
maybe wore
about.
big turbans in it as well, maybe. So it was like a flying carpet thing, but it was... Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, put a pin in that for later. Yeah. So anyway, so she's kind of bargains with this god for the magic herb to bring back her husband to life.
It's interesting to consider, because obviously in each iteration of this as well, that god always seems to be someone a bit different. Oh, it's...
No, I disagree. I think it's all you're...
No,
he's kind of like a bald looking robes with a big stick.
In another one, there's the goddess of mercy there as well, right? And
this one, the goddess of mercy is there.
Yeah, but she's not in all versions. Sometimes she's the one in charge, and sometimes he's the one in charge.
Yeah. And
so I'm not quite sure exactly what he's supposed to represent, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. So anyway, so at the end of this exchange, he basically says, "No, you can't have the herb," and then these kind of heavenly doors open, and then there's this like golden light, like in Raiders, at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, basically, isn't it? And it's some emanation of the Buddha that says, yeah, it's all right because she's doing it for love. She can have it.
Basically, the boss was listening in the office. And he's cracked the door open, and he's like, "Go on, let him in. Go on." Yeah.
So anyway, so she comes down, brings back to life. He's all pissed off with Whitesnake for being a Whitesnake, and then he fucks off to the mountain, to the mountain temple with the priest. Is it Farhan? I think so. And then it gets interesting.
Yes.
So then we get the special effects.
Yeah.
Right.
Shit. And it's quite nice actually. So he's kind of ambivalent about, because he basically kind of becomes a monk. He's like, he thinks he's being rescued by this this kind of Buddhist priest in this Buddhist monastery. But he still kind of has feelings for her, and and all that. And you know, he's there, you know, the priest is there trying to convince him that he's, you know, no, that's an evil spirit. You shouldn't have, you know, dabbled with that, but you're safe now. So anyways, she rocks up at the temple and she says, you better give me my husband back or there'll be trouble. And the priest said, no, you're not getting your husband back. Not while, something like, I didn't write the exact line. Not while the Yangtze River is flowing down there will you ever get your husband back. So then she summons up, her and Greensnake summon up this like monsoon, this storm, to divert the course of the river through the temple, to basically flood the temple. And then we've got lots of special effects.
Yes, it's
extravaganzas
for a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So there's like a tornado,
yeah.
There's a tsunami, there's
Super
all sorts of
miniature work
again. Yeah. And it's all kind of you know, it's winds and thunder and lightning, and tidal waves, and you know, you've got the priest. All the while, the priest is kind of, you know, is doing his kind of, you know, chanting to like ward off the evil magic, and in the middle of this, while the temple's basically going down, so the temple's just about to get destroyed, Whitesnake notices that her husband has been swept out of the temple and is close to kind of, you know, being killed by the waters that she summoned up. And she kind of gets distracted by her husband and then like breaks the spell. And then her and Greensnake are swept away by this tidal wave.
It's an interesting scene because it's one of the ones where we see Greensnake start to break away a little bit from Whitesnake. They have a bit of a scrap there, like verbally, where she's like,
Greensnake just fucks off.
Yeah, and she says like, you know, you're giving up for that fickle fool, and you know, she's pissed. She's kind of played along with this for long enough. She's like, no, he's not worth it. You know, yeah.
So they get swept away. Greensnake fucks off. Xiao is saved, so the husband is saved, goes back to his sister, and then you know, a little while later, Whitesnake kind of manifests. So tells him, you know, there's no reason to live, and you know, he should just kill her. You know,
the same stuff as before, basically. She comes back and continues to haunt him, and be crazy.
Yeah, and then she turns into a snake, and he kicks the shit out of the snake.
Yep.
I don't know how I feel about that, but anyway, he does
that.
Yep. So she dies.
You've watched Calamity of Snakes, so you know this is nothing.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about misogyny more than.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she kind of, you know, he kicks the shit out of the snake, basically kills the snake. She disappears and then kind of reappears in this kind of otherworldly kind of flower, you know, field of flowers kind of landscape.
Yeah, it looks like Oz for a moment.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Yeah, so it's this very kind of, you know, matte painted kind of scenery, isn't it? And then the priest shows up. You know, tells Xiao to go home. He regrets all his decisions, especially about killing his wife, because she's a snake. The priest just kills with magic, just kills the husband. They both rise as ghosts, float up to the heavens. The end. I quite like that bit, actually. Not necessarily but just like the floating up to heaven bit. It's quite an extended scene, isn't it, of them kind of being transparent spirits, just kind
ethereal.
Yeah.
And I think we get there. They're kind of connected by the red scarf as well in that final moment. I think, which is a little callback to his scarf fetishism.
Yeah, and the pearl turns up, but I didn't quite. Oh yeah, that's it. She leaves the pearl, which is like her heart. I've written down. Yeah, so she disappears. She goes off. So she's gone and killed. And then the pearl remains. He picks up the pearl and remembers how much he loves her. And then the priest turns up and kills him so that he can be with her.
It's either the heart or the clitoris, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, it wasn't between flowers. It wasn't between
Mhm.
flower petals, so it was a heart. In
Okay.
all of the instances, it was the clitoris.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I mean, and I think that does roughly give us the shape for all of the ones to follow, except that the weight that they put in different elements and the extent to which she is sympathetic will change, I think, quite a lot. And the extent to which he loves her as well
And how much
will
of
also
it just a
change quite a
fool
bit.
he is as well, right? Like ineffectual fool.
Mhm.
And also to the extent of, so this one seems like this seems really puts a point on, okay, this basically interspecies love of yours is not welcome, you know, other than in the afterlife, right?
Yeah.
You can go and fuck your snake as much as you like there, but this isn't going to work down here because that's not how we do things around here. So it's an interesting one. It's interesting listening to you talk about it. You no fault of yours, but just hearing it laid out, you made it sound like quite heavy, like thematically heavy, which it is, I suppose. But it's worth pointing out how light it is.
Yeah, it's an easy watch. It's very easy to watch.
But it's very much
And,
like everything it's like a souffle, right? Everything looks beautiful and everything, but it's very, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be, considering how much drama is going on and how many existential themes and stuff, it doesn't feel like that while you're watching it, right? It seems very...
No, I think, yeah, you're right, actually. I think the way I laid it out, and it took me so long to lay it out as well. And, this is all done in an hour and a half. It's all done in
you took, I think. But that's good, because we don't have to do it again.
No, we're not going to do it again.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the job's done now.
The differences.
That would be a very long body every... Right, so...
Yes.
But yeah, no, it very, very, very well worth saying, actually, the way I've laid it out. And because the plot is so dense, that's why we've had to do that. And because, the other films we're going to talk about, especially in Not in ShawScope in our other episode, they're all variations on this theme.
Right.
So we have to lay out the plot as it stands. And this is, funny enough, this is the one that's got the most plot elements. So some plot elements are missing, some plot elements are intact, some plot elements are changed. But this is the one that, exactly. Yeah.
And also it is probably, because it's the extent one as well, this is kind of the ground zero in terms of cinematic Madam Whitesnake. Nowadays, right?
I think all future versions are referring not actually probably to the myth or the story,
exactly,
but
more to this.
They're referring to these two films. Actually,
yes,
I think. Yeah.
I would say I do think that one thing that this film is missing, that some of the other films will reinstate, is the kind of frame around the story and the beginning and the end. The idea that she has a son by him, and that son eventually goes on to free her from her imprisonment in the pagoda. There's certain elements of the actual original myth that aren't in this, and the idea that they may have had a relationship that predates that meeting.
But
other than that, I think you're right. Most of the central incidents in the film are definitely we'll see we either will or won't see them again in all the ones that come after.
So but to repeat, actually, it is quite an easy watch. So it is quite a breeze to get through. It's not a heavy film to get through, and it's quite entertaining, I thought.
It is. It's a good film. I enjoyed this quite. The reason it jumped out at me is because it's directed by Shiro Toyoda, and I know Shiro Toyoda for other films such as Illusion of Blood and Portrait of Hell. And if you compare it to those films, which are more kind of his forte, maybe, or what he's remembered for, this is like surprisingly light and breezy, right? So it just kind of jumps out at you if you go in expecting something along the lines of those other films. Or but it's a good one, I would say. Like it's not like eating your greens. You need to see this one just to set up the other ones or anything like that. I mean, it's certainly as entertaining as any of the others we'll be talking about. This or our companion, not, or at least the first one. I mean, I'm very much looking forward to revisiting Green Snake in a couple of not short.
I haven't seen that since the 90s. So
and I remember that a great deal back in the day. So but I mean, I don't know how much more there is to say about this. I mean, specifically this version. If either of you have anything you want to add.
I would say it seems that the harshest version in terms of the characterization of both the lovers. I feel like she is more stone cold crazy and more callous, and then she poisons the whole town basically to benefit her husband. And he also seems harsher to her, like in that he basically beats her to death in snake form at the end. None of the versions I think after this are ever going to be quite as harsh in those elements. I mean, I know what you're saying with the lightness or deftness of touch overall, but I feel like this one is just a little bit more mean than a lot of the ones we're gonna talk about.
Well, I don't know if mean is the right word, but it's certainly more morally ambivalent. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Do you think?
Yeah. I mean, mean is a very judgmental word, but yeah, it definitely it's not. I feel like in this version, the meddlesome priest, I see his side more than in any of the ones we're going to talk about after this. In every other version, he seems like a bit more of a dick to me, but in this is a version where I'm like, ooh, yeah, this maybe isn't a healthy relationship. This does seem a bit toxic. Her being a mass murderer and the rest of it, and the way she kind of gaslights him from the beginning almost to the very end of the story.
They're almost like the fantastical period Chinese version of the honeymoon killers, right?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, yes. But anyway, let's get on. Let's get on.
Yeah, well, this is the point to mention then. So we're taking this as our ground zero oldest extant version. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the next 62 Shaw, I suppose, pretty direct remake in a way. Like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do it as a musical, and this time we're going to do it as a proper Chinese film by Chinese cast members. And so, but in the meantime, another couple of versions sneaked out, which we'll be talking about in our sister, not ShawScope, the Korean version and the animated Japanese version. But also, this is the point to mention that there are many versions of this. There's the ones we'll be talking about in the next couple of not episodes, but there's also a bunch of other ones which we're not going to get round to. And more specifically, a shitload of TV series. Out of, either Hong Kong, mainland China, Taiwan, Singapore. There's a whole bunch of long-running TV series based on this legend. And the way I understand it is, I think they skew a lot more towards the romantic angle. Like, there's a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because, well, that's the nature.
TV budget.
Yeah. And that's the nature of those TV shows as well. I think the demographic that's going to watch them is probably they're wanting a little bit more of the romantic elements more than the fantasy element. I mean, I'd be quite happy to try one or two of them, but I suspect there'll be a lot more melodrama and romance than FX and I mean, there's not much action in any of these actually, but
not really. No,
some of them might have because
although actually, yeah,
Yeah, when we
Well,
get
go
to
on.
the Snake Woman's marriage, there's a little bit there. Well, some of them might have, some of the TV ones might.
Yeah.
be,
Well, I mean, there's an interesting bit of action in this one.
Yeah, the one we're about to talk about now. Yes,
Yeah.
I was surprised by that too. When we get
62.
when we
Yeah,
get to heaven.
that's the kind of the standard. Yeah, so we need to. Yeah.
Yeah, so 1962 then,
Yeah.
as directed by Griffin Ye Feng, Shaw Brothers again, and this time, the only Japanese name is Tadashi Nishimoto, right, the cinematographer who is the famous. Right, he shot all sorts of things like Game of Death and things like that, and he's one of the first people to migrate from Japan to Shaw Brothers, I think, if I remember. We talked a little bit about him before, didn't we?
Yeah.
And a musical. And yes, just in case you were worried, we haven't talked Linda Lindai for a while. She's back.
It's okay.
Hooray! It's funny.
Yeah.
Actually. I thought, oh, fucking hell, we're talking a lot about Linda Lindai, and then we hadn't watched some Linda Lindai films for a while, and then I watched this. I'd seen it before, but and I was surprised how pleased I was to be watching Linda Lindai again. Like I'd actually missed Linda Lindai.
I have got all the time in the world for Linda Lindai, and to be fair to her, she didn't make that many films.
No.
So
no, and this is one of the This is really one of the last couple that she does make.
Yeah.
And the other actor in this also commits suicide, which was a surprise to me from reading the Wikipedia.
I didn't catch that. Is that Chow Lei or
whoever plays Green Snake in this?
Oh, Margaret Tuchar.
Yeah, she apparently just a couple of years after Linda Lindai took her life, she took her life as well. So it's quite a weird thing that both of these young. And they were young. I mean,
they didn't coincidentally find a couple of dead snakes in the proximity of the bodies, did they?
I'm not aware, but
it's
always a possibility. But what's interesting? So I'm going to say this. So I sat down with Jen and I was watching that with her, and we were watching it from near the beginning. And she said, she was like, that whoever that is, she's got crazy eyes. She seems like a person. There's nothing in her smile that is reaching her eyes. She's got like dead eyes. And I was like,
was she talking about Linda Lindai?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that's interesting.
Said, that's the woman I love you're talking about.
That's our Linda Lindai, that is.
And then you
how dare she?
And then a monk turned up and killed you, and then you made up in heaven.
That's how it all went down. No, but I mean, it was just interesting to me that she could see something that I obviously couldn't or didn't. But right away, she was like, she's not happy. There's something up with that lady.
Maybe that's the Linda Lindai formula. Is maybe that sadness in life
just
is translating. Yeah, it's translating somehow to the screen.
Right.
And maybe that's what gives her quality. I haven't analysed it that way myself. But
I kind of see what she means, though. That she definitely does have an intensity in the eyes, but it hadn't necessarily. I hadn't necessarily read it as a negative intensity. Let's put it that way, like a sadness or a mania.
Yeah, and this I don't even think that this is. I mean, this is probably the lesser. One of the lesser Linda Lindai vehicles that I've seen, which I think says a lot about the Linda Lindai films, because I think they're so spectacular and so good. And she's so good in them. I think her performance in this is kind of down the ladder a bit from the other stuff.
It's funny you say that, because I don't know about performance-wise, but just in terms of someone's cinematic personality matching the source material, I think she was born to play Whitesnake. I think she's a really good, because I don't know, everything about her as Whitesnake makes sense to me in ways that some of the others are always a little bit off. Like, I don't know what it is. There's like, oh, she's beautiful enough, but she's not sympathetic enough, or she's crazy, but you don't see the other side. Somehow Linda Lindai, for me, encapsulates, like, I can see why someone would fall for this White Snake.
Mm.
For me, she plays it like, on the one hand, you never quite 100% trust her. On the other hand, you also always give her the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not putting that all at her feet. I'm not saying that's her giving amazing performance ending. I mean, it could be, but it's just really good casting, or just coincidentally,
Yeah.
she was the it girl at Shaw at the time. And of course, if they're making Madam Whitesnake as a musical, that's who's going to play her, and just serendipity timing. But I think she's like, I mean, yeah, when we get to Green Snake, I might reevaluate that. Or even Jade Lung, for very different reasons. But no, I think Linda Lindai is you could put this up there as like you know, her epitaph, you know.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay, interesting.
I think
You wanna...
absolutely, no, absolutely, you're right, and I think, you know, I think we've done enough Linda Lindai now to know that if she's in the film, she elevates the film.
Right.
So her performance is a given, you know, that she's going to light up the screen and she's going to be great in everything.
The camera loves her, right? The camera loves her.
Of course, yeah. But in terms of her performances in context of the other films that we've seen, I'm thinking particularly the Jiao Chan stuff. I think that she's doing her job amazingly, but I don't think the material or the direction supports her well enough to be, you know, superstar Linda Lindai.
I think also, for me personally, because this was the first version. Oh no, hang on. No, I suppose that would have been Green Snake, but Green Snake, like you said, came along very early on and maybe out of context a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of writhing around in Green Snake.
Yeah, there's a lot of
so we need to. So there's a different animal.
In terms of like the classic interpretation of it, I think this is the first version I saw, and because they're all somewhat interchangeable, then I think that might be part. Plus, as well, the fact that it's a musical and it's a very charming musical. Like it's got nice songs. It's pleasurable. Again, looks astonishing. Again,
yes,
HD, please, because it just looks fantastic. Everything about it looks great, and the costumes and the sets and the lighting, and it's entirely artificial. But then you realize when you get to, for instance, Snake Woman's Marriage, you miss that artificiality, don't you, when they go on real locations for this kind of thing. But so I think that's why this might be, you know, it's sometimes your first kind of encounter with something.
Yeah. No, I get that. I understand that, but I haven't seen this before. So I'm you know, predominantly doing it in the White Snake narrative, you know, in the White Snake mythos that we're kind of embedding ourselves in at the moment. But I'm also viewing it in context, you know, from zero, in the context of Lindai's other performances, and I just think she wasn't given enough room to kind of work with. You know, I just don't think she's Lindai enough. So, you know, she's given enough to Lindai.
So you were saying earlier you misspoke, but now it's worth bringing it up. So this is the one that has the opening scene where someone takes pity on a snake, and then it's the reincarnation of that guy who she falls for, right? And that I like that addition. So in this version, our pharmacist, stockbroker, whatever guy, Zhao Lei, is, again, he's not exactly pin-up material, but he's definitely, you understand why she falls for him more than the Ikeberio character, because Zhao Lei got that big...
Because all ghosts fall for Zhao Lei, right? Because
that's true, but
he
also,
is the star of
he's
Enchanting Shadow.
Cherubic, right? He's got a bit of baby fat, and he looks a bit kind of stupid and out of his depth, and he's a lot like me. And or at least how my wife views me, I think. In need of protection.
Me too. Yeah.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't for maternal instinct, I would never have got any punani whatsoever.
No, definitely punching above our weight.
I fell down a mountain on our first date, rolled through a bunch of jumping cactus, and got a piece of broken beer bottle stuck in my arse, which required 7 stitches to close up. That was my first date with my wife when I was 16.
There we go.
She was
so we are
15.
all
impressive.
We are all mothered, ineffectual, rubbish men.
Yeah, actually, that's quite interesting. I hadn't realised that about Nick. I knew about Clive, but we all got together with our wives.
For being
in our teenage.
We've all been together with our wives our whole adult life, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I was taken aback once I was talking to Jen, and I said that you know that Clive's wife has a thing for the stupid one on Father Ted. What's his name? Father Dougal. She's like, she finds Father Dougal quite attractive, and Jen was like, ooh.
Again, you want to protect him from the evils of Bishop Brennan.
That's it.
But anyway, so
in conclusion,
yeah,
we're all keepers.
Yes,
that's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
So
look out, ladies. So what I like about this version though is, even though he's closer, you understand a bit more why she goes for him, because he's kind of cute more than you do yours. But on top of that, because they add this bit about the snake, it makes a hell of a lot more sense, doesn't it? That she
yes,
So I thought that was a nice little addition. But the previous
and actually,
could have done with, because you would have understood then why she's fancies Charles Hawtrey so much.
But I come to think, actually, I think that this is the only version. Sorry, the previous version. So 1956, I think, is actually the only version that doesn't have that through line. If I'm right. So I think on the anime, we'll get into the anime. I think
it is in the source legend, isn't it? It's part of
it. Is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually, in retrospect, it's a bit of a weird thing to leave out, really. I wonder why they did that. Yeah,
because you'd think that, okay, well, you'd leave that out if you wanted to make a grounded story. Although how you can make a grounded story about a supernatural snake spirit, I don't know. But it's
you want to
kind
see
of grounded-ish
version of White Snake.
Exactly. Yeah, or I forgot his name. Never mind. Hen Loach. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
The kitchen sink drama.
Yeah.
That's 3, right? Next would have been Alan Clark, I can guarantee you.
Yeah, yes, then you're done. That's your bingo.
Yeah. Raining snakes.
Yes.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Is that somehow they've left that bit out, and it does seem to be, the reincarnation thing, or at least the paying the debt.
Yeah.
To the kindness, in the past to the snake, runs through all the other versions that I can think of anyway. There's an interesting choice to leave out. But again, this version leaves something out as well, because this version hasn't got any of the stolen silver stuff in.
Yes.
At all. Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't have her poisoning the townspeople.
No, because that's just it's just their evil aura apparently is making people ill, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't imagine Evelyn die poison in the well. See,
no, she's too nice. Yeah. She might turn the gas on.
Ooh, okay.
Sorry, was that too much?
Maybe.
It took a dark turn, didn't it?
Here's
I stand by that. I stand by that joke.
All right. I did notice, and it made me wonder, how early does the fishbowl lens show up in Shaw Brothers? Because this is the first time that I'm noticing it. It is in this film. About the things we watched that had been made before this, I haven't noticed any kind of, nothing jumped out at me. But suddenly, I noticed a few pans that had fishbowl thing going on.
Okay, I didn't notice it actually.
Yeah, I didn't notice it here because I don't know. There's something. I don't know if that is a fishbowl lens or is that because in some later Shaw Brothers films, it seems almost as if they have like a defective lens or something that no one replaced, because there's a few films in a row you see where you get that kind of weird slight warping.
Bending.
Yeah, but also there's like a bit of the screen is obfuscated, usually down in the like the latter.
Yeah, it's
part of the screen.
Yeah.
Left or something. And I think they just had a dodgy lens, something.
And they didn't do anything about it.
It's made for such a major production company that no one pointed it out. But you could be right. It could be a attempt at some sort of fishbowl effect. But it just, to me, it's as if the lens is still holding up a bit. Like, it hasn't got bad yet.
I will say, actually, it's funny, of all of the versions we watched, I liked the camera work in this one maybe more than any of the other ones. I thought it was the least static, the most kind of roving, and just in control, and just really nice setups, like nice angles, interesting things in the foreground, midground, and foreground, like just lots of really thoughtful decisions made with regard to how it was staged. Like even right down to the bit where they get onto the boat at the beginning, I was like, this is actually more effective than the bit in the previous film and in any of the ones later on. Like it was just well mounted.
Yeah, it's a challenge really to say much more about it, I think. Well,
we've got to say a few things.
Go on then.
Yes.
So we've got to discuss Linda Lindai's journey to heaven.
Yes, I think so, because that's the big jump out thing, which again, that's another real thing. Whatever the hell that thing was called, it comes up the
herb thing. The grass, magic grass stuff.
Yeah, it's a well, hang on, it's a what the hell is it? It's Ganoderma lucidum is a mushroom, and it's used for, and it's a real thing, and it's used for boosting immunity, fighting cancer, fatigue, depression, promoting heart health, which I think in this case is why she needs it, because again, he's dropped out of another heart attack, and apparently it is a so she brings back but yeah, it's a real mushroom, and it only grows in very specific areas wild. One of them is on this Mount N, whatever the hell it's called. Like in real life, it actually grows on that mountain, which is a real mountain in China, which has all of these mythological.
And actually, what she had in her hand did look a bit mushroomy. Looked more like a plant, but more like a kind of a rubber plant kind of.
Yeah, in all the other versions, we see it. And I should say, it's the mushrooms. It's a mushroom that kind of grows, I think, out of trees, like those kind of sideways looking things, as opposed to a toadstool kind of a mushroom.
Yeah, because it had that kind of shape to it, didn't it? That kind of mushroomy shape to it.
Yeah. So apparently it's a real thing, and apparently it is very effective. Pure all mushroom. Yeah. And anyway, so another thing, I was just, whenever I saw something like a really specific thing in the subtitles, I was like, that seems real, maybe. So
actually, anyway. before we get to that point, what I wanted to point out is that contrary to the previous film, the monk Farhan is actually pretty sinister in this version as well, isn't he? So he kind of turns up.
He's a meddler, isn't he?
But not even that. He turns up and like tries to get Zhao away from Whitesnake, but also he like appears and disappears, laughing maniacally in gusts of wind.
Yes.
So he's kind of, if you're going to position him in the plot, he's kind of the baddie, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's kind of quite obvious in this, whereas it's a little bit more ambiguous in the 1956 version.
Certainly, the relationship between Zhao Lei and Linda Lindai in this version is less problematic, right? The film seems to be taking the stance, what's the problem? What's the big deal?
Yeah, it's just love story. Yeah.
And she's not gaslighting him nearly as much as the version is in the previous. At least not coming on with the full bore, like, if you leave me, I'm going to hurt you on all that stuff, right?
Right.
Or if I can't be with you, you have to murder me. Like she's dialed all that back quite a ways. He also has proper yellow bits of paper, which made me happy. I noticed that in every different version, depending on the country of origin, like the Korean version has different magical talisman paper, but this was the first one I was like, oh, I know what that is. That's the proper bits of paper. Those are the ones that work.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, so we've got to talk about Linda Lindai's journey to heaven.
Yes,
because this is the point that goes
shifts gears into a wuxia.
Well, yeah, but it's full fucking peaking opera, isn't it? That's the whole thing. It's
like the breakdancing scene, which more than anything else, the part where she starts doing the backspins or whatever, is like, wait a second, when was this made?
Yeah,
especially when it's got a bit of cardboard on the floor.
It's got the drums, it's got the cymbals and the drums, and it's got the flips, and it's got all the weapons, and also a 17-year-old Ping.
And when she starts tagging the trees in the background as well.
Yes, that was a surprise.
Yeah.
Lynn 80.
Yeah. But no, so yeah, also Ping's first appearance on screen is this film. Yeah.
Bombing White Snake.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but that's a good sort of 5-10 minute sequence, isn't it? Where it's literally just fights, it's a peaking opera fight. And it's not particularly sophisticated, but it's notable because that's the first time we've seen that in Shaw Brothers so far, for what we've done.
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. And it's interesting. It's an interesting directorial choice to go with that. And you wonder, because I know that Hwang Mei opera is a little bit less acrobatic usually than the other opera traditions, but it makes you wonder, because I've never seen a proper Hwang Mei opera, but it makes you wonder, how much of that how much of that exists in that tradition. So that's something that I'm going to look at anyway. But yeah, that's that. I did just want to flag those two things.
Well, it's definitely worth, because you're right. If you put it into the kind of context like that as well, it is an interesting. I mean, it's not the only way in, but it is an interesting. One way how the cinema transitioned to embrace basically acrobatic action, right?
Yeah.
One way it starts leaking in. Anything else about White Snake 62?
Well, they reuse the footage as well, didn't they? So the other thing actually is different to 1956. They use White and Green Snake use very Chinese magic. So there are a few little instances, probably 2 or 3 instances, and the finale is one of them where they kind of go like that and go all that business, isn't it?
That again.
No. Hang on. Echo.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That's good. That.
Put that in the trailer for this, I think.
We've got trailers now, have we?
Well, now, if you're going to start doing shit like that, yeah.
I want you to edit this me going with like sparks coming off, like wispy, like no, that's not going to happen. No, but it's interesting, isn't it? Is that they reuse some of the 56 footage for the flooding,
the special effects,
the temple.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I don't think they were. Everything else they were probably pretty confident with. We got this, but I think probably no one was going to top Subaraya's miniature effects work even 6 years later, right? So they were wise to.
There's a few things that maybe that jump out at me. One is so when the Taoist priest first shows up and kind of does the whole, there's something wrong with your aura. Your wife is a snake demon, and you need to get rid of her. This version, He's way more like, what did you say about my wife? I'm gonna break the, I'm gonna smash your whole stall down, you ass. He's far more immediately protective and defensive around her, and that kind of carries through the whole film. You know, in this version, he's a more straight up dude. This is the first version where they have a child as well.
Yeah.
So you know, she gives birth out in the forest near the end, and then this. Go ahead.
No, I was just curious. Since we've made the link now, just wondering if we should have either of you been out and about with your other halves and had a merchant accuse your wife of being a white snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I know.
I think we might be putting some things together in real time.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the venerable old man or the heavenly king, because he's got the 5 head in this version. He's got like some
he's got the
head going on, which was exciting. And I'm trying to remember, is this the one?
Is that his head, or is that an effect?
I think that's probably an effect.
I don't know. It's quite well done. I mean,
we could have he could just be hydrocephalic, possibly.
I wouldn't want to make fun of the poor man. Well, no, that would be the opposite of a pinhead. He's got a fat head.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You were saying, Nick?
I was going to say that, yeah, this is the version where you know, the priest, again, you know, the priests just seem more like assholes in this version than I think in the previous version. You could lend them some kind of sympathy. You're like, oh well, this version of Whitesnake, she does seem pretty scary. In this one, they just seem like jerks.
Yeah.
So he fights with them at the end, trying to protect her after she's had the kid, and then runs headfirst into a tree and kills himself. Like, I'm right in, like, is this the version where he like?
No, that's the previous one. That's 56.
But I have it written down here that.
No,
he's alive. He's alive.
By your track record, I would tend to side with Nick here. I'm not sure myself, but if I was a betting man.
Let me make sure that I'm not in the right. Yeah, no, this is.
Sorry, you are right. Sorry, my apologies. Sorry.
Yeah, and then that's it. Like he just headbutts a tree.
What the fuck film am I thinking of then? I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to embarrass myself even further.
Yeah, lucky you avoided that day.
She then gets shrunk down by the Buddhist priest and stuffed into an earthenware pot. And then a bunch of these warrior monks are all there with these crazy warrior monk costumes. And then his spirit goes in search of his wife, and they do find each other in the afterlife, and that's kind of the end of that version.
Yeah.
And we don't know, the baby gets taken away by Greensnake, so at the end she gives the baby and kind of says like, have the baby avenge me or something. And then
I was wondering if is that part of the big myth cycle?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So the baby does grow up and becomes a famous and important scholar, and then the gods take pity on her because, well, she must have been a good person to have produced this great child. So he works her debt off, basically, her son, and then she's freed from the pagoda. That's how the
is rarely in any of the film versions, as far as I can tell.
Yes,
you can see hints of it in a lot of them.
Yes, we see a more grown child version in one of the Taiwanese one, I think.
Yeah. But that's the hallmark that we haven't spoken about, is her getting shrunk into a magic bowl. So in some versions she's left there forever. In other versions she kind of escapes it. But in all versions, usually, you have the priest Farhan kind of have this magic, like, I guess it's like what do you call them, singing bowl.
Yes.
Yeah. And laser beams come out of the singing bowl usually and suck the always good laser beams, and then suck Whitesnake, miniaturized Whitesnake, and suck and trap them in there. And either there's an intervention, you know, because Whitesnake's usually kind of defeated by the priest Farhan, and then either there's an intervention or there isn't. In this one, there isn't. She doesn't get trapped forever.
So, I mean, is it time, or do we wait till we get to the next set of films to talk about the whole like the whole like the metaphor thing that's kind of going on here a little bit about like whether you're truthful with somebody about what you really are at the beginning of a relationship, or you just wait it out. There's this whole thing that kind of goes on here that interests me.
I think we should conclude that thematic discussion at the end of the next podcast. At the end of
I think so too, because I think it comes up in even more pointed and clear ways in some of these later
because
versions.
at that point we've seen it. We've seen more films, if not all the films. What do you think, Clive?
Yeah. Plus, it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Stay tuned, listeners.
Wait to find out what we're going to say about that. I bet. So we'll go now and leave you all chomping at the bit until the next episode of Not.
We'll leave you all trapped in a magic bowl.
Yes.
Under a pagoda.
Yes. Yeah. Just hoping that your half snake, half human child can pay your debts so that you can experience the wisdom that we're going to lay upon you.
Let's go then.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
Watching.
Bye-bye.
Both. Watching.
Fucking hell. Just turn it off, will you?